Hey guys, Sean Fay-Wolfe of Diamond X Studios. I told you I was going to finish these videos, and goddammit, I am keeping my promise. After making 2 videos counting down the 130 biggest songs of 2022, I decided to leave the top 20 songs on that list out so I can present them in their own video. No long intro spiel to start this one out. You all know exactly what kind of video this is going to be. So without further ado, let's take a look at the top 10 best hit songs of 2022. And just to let you know right off the bat what kind of video this is going to be.
If only could, I'd make a deal with God, and I'd get him to swap our places.
Yeah, this is how we're starting. Running Up That Hill is not number 1. It's not in the top 10. It barely even made the top 20. And no, I'm not taking the coward's route by saying, oh, this is an 80s song, it doesn't really count. No, the song was one of the most streamed songs of 2022, and 90% of those streaming had never heard it before it got used in Stranger Things. Running Up That Hill by Kate Bush was a 2022 hit song, and it was nowhere near my favorite hit of the year. That might be kind of amazing to hear since it's now been solidly accepted as one of the best songs of all time, an assessment which I can definitely understand. This song is a timeless masterpiece for reasons that I already discussed long before it got big, and the rest of the world has had no shortage of discussion on ever since. So why isn't it on my list? Because quite frankly, I've realized that over the years, the way I want to do these best lists isn't to be super technical or academic or to try and prove anything about my tastes. It's just to let my gut lead the way, and then to try to decipher why my gut feels the way it does using objectivity. My goal is not to look at every song that gets big and grade it on a rubric and then reward whatever gets the highest score with some kind of medal. This is pop music, and the goal of pop music is to function as the best lowest common denominator possible, to be played over and over again. The more time goes on, the more highly I find myself rating songs that succeed in making me want to listen to them over and over again. And quite frankly, Running Up That Hill by Kate Bush did not really do that. This song is like a jar of fine caviar. It's a true delicacy that's expertly prepared and deserves to be savored and appreciated, but let's be real. Would you rather win a lifetime supply of free caviar or a lifetime supply of free pizza from your favorite local pizzeria? TikTok has definitely made the moment-to-moment act of listening to pop music more juvenile and cringy than it's ever been before, but when you take a step back and look at the big picture, the fact that music labels have lost so much relevance and the big hits are being decided directly by the tides of public opinion has been a very good thing for the quality of pop music overall. The fact that there were enough great songs in 2022 that Running Up That Hill by Kate Bush could become one of the biggest smashes of the year, and my response to it could be, I love you, thank you for being here, but I don't really need your help right now, well, that really says something, doesn't it?
Oh, shit.
Okay, so who did I decide to put ahead of Kate Bush exactly?
Poo, pee, pee, penis and vagina. Women with dicks and weak men with vaginas. So fucking delicate like mommy's fine china. If you have complaints, please wait.
Cause sometimes I look in her eyes and that's where I find a glimpse of us.
Look, I know that making pink guy jokes about Joji might seem a bit hacky at this point, but it's worth noting that the only reason they're still funny is because he actually managed to pull it off. I mean, nobody makes jokes about Dream and The Mask anymore, not only because your Wikipedia page having a section devoted to the negative critical reception of your own face is such a generation-defining ill that it kinda overshadows every other cringy thing you've ever done, but also because there's just no irony to it. On the other hand, you've got a guy who spent a decade making kill yourself and porn title rap before one day deciding to make deeply sincere, heartbreaking love songs for the Billie Eilish audience, which is just objectively very funny. I honestly never loved Slow Dancing in the Dark all that much. It was just a little bit too busy and extra for me, but stripping back all of that bombast to create the great Sam Smith dirge that Sam Smith never made, built around the crushingly effective framing of having a new lover who, despite all her wonderful traits, still can't serve as more than a sad facsimile of what this man has lost.
Said I'm fine and said I moved on. I'm only here passing time in her arms, hoping I'll find a glimpse.
Yeah, right through the heart. Godspeed, Mr. Blobby. Godspeed. Real quick reminder to please give this video a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, and think of some comments you want to leave below. If you watch this video up to this point, then I have to assume you enjoy what I'm doing here at least a little bit, and the more interaction I get, the more likely YouTube is to share my videos with more people. So if you could take the couple seconds necessary to do that, I would really appreciate it. Remember, This is 2022. Ice Spice did not exist yet.
Cause karma is my boyfriend. Karma is a god. Karma is the breeze in my hair on the weekend.
I got a few comments on my worst of 2023 video roasting me for glazing Taylor Swift a bit too much, you know, devoting a good chunk of time to just how enormous she was that year and why I felt she deserved her success. Man, sorry, but I don't regret that one single bit. I wanted to make the record clear so that people listening to this in the future could get an accurate sense of just how fucking enormous she was. And I think that Karma is another great example of how that massive weight and celebrity can work to her advantage and make the music actually better. Cause I'm sorry, do you remember the last time Taylor Swift talked about Karma before this song?
The world moves on another day, another drama. But not for me, all I think about is karma.
Yeah, when that was my last impression, you can imagine how many bricks I shat when I realized there was a song on Midnights called Karma, and subsequently how much whiplash struck me when I actually heard it.
Trick me once, trick me twice. Don't you know that cash ain't the only price?
Not only is Karma one of my favorite examples of the whole glittercore aesthetic that she and Jack Antonoff came up with for this album, but she also appears to be the first white person in history to actually kinda understand what karma means, like in a religious sense. You know, the idea that if you have good intentions and live a pure life, then the universe will have your back. This song is Taylor realizing that she doesn't need to actively seek out vengeance on those who wrong her, that the best way to beat the haters is to just ignore them and keep ruling shit. And I don't care if this is all a put on or if she's actually learned her lesson, that kind of character growth between Reputation and now is something that would not be nearly as potent if Taylor wasn't the biggest artist on the planet.
And I keep my side of the street clean.
I think the past few years have definitely taught us all quite a lot about the downsides of Taylor's gravity warping fame, but man, this really was a moment, wasn't it? Okay, look, if an artist passes away, especially if it was premature, that is going to have an effect on how you view their work. You know, it's inevitable. It's really not much of a point to pretend like that isn't going to change the way you see them. And so while I don't want you to get the impression that this song is only here as a show of respect, I do legitimately love it. Respect is definitely something that I'm gonna have to throw down for this one.
Let's get it. Hop off a 16 passenger. This a G5, no, this not a Challenger. Big one. I keep some members with me in the fridge, get coat seats, they some cannibals.
I've joked before about how Migos didn't really invent the triplet flow. You know, how Flo Rida of all fucking people was actually getting #1 hits with it before Migos was even formed. But saying the triplet flow was invented before Migos is kind of like saying British rock music existed before the Beatles. That is to say, technically true, but who really cares? The fact of the matter is that Migos changed the landscape of hip-hop in more ways than any artist since probably Jay-Z. The triplet flow and Atlanta cadence backed up by a flood of ad-libs changed the sound of 2010's music. Not just hip-hop, but all music. And not only did Migos pioneer that sound, they slipped into it like a glove in ways that no one else could. Tragically, since the untimely death of Takeoff in November 2022, it seems likely that this is the last taste of Migos the charts will ever be getting. But man, this is one hell of a note to go out on.
Color stones in my infinity lane, and in the factory masterpiece.
Even without Offset, Quavo and Takeoff managed to capture a masterful cross-section of the defining Migos experience. From the head-turning triplet flows to the sick multi-tracked auto-tune, to the ominous badass echo beat that they ride so effortlessly, to some of the most infectious ad-lib assists of their entire career.
Trap it, nigga one shit. I was outside just serving narcotics. Pay me that stick.
Fantastic work, boys. Rest in peace, Takeoff. You changed the world, and you will be dearly missed.
Si quieres te la saco, 2 tragos y sabes que me pongo bellaco.
Yep, that's right. My favorite song off of Un Verano Sin Ti wasn't Neverita or Ojitos Lindos or even Tite Me Pregunto. It was this. Moscow Mule by Bad Bunny, which is Spanish for Soviet Donkey by Failure Rabbit, was a slow burner for me, starting out as just pretty good before turning into probably my favorite Bad Bunny song ever by year's end. The main reason for this is the absolutely massive echoing space it conveys, which is something that I've always found that Bad Bunny and his producers have been masterful at conveying. Very few songs succeed in transporting you into their world more than this one. But what truly elevated this song this high onto the list was when I translated the lyrics and saw just how perfectly they fit in with this song's vibe. Moscow Mule is a song about the moment when you're aroused, but you find that it's nothing but empty lust in a moment when what you really want more than anything is someone to truly love and care for you. The main metaphor used to convey this is when you find yourself falling for someone you're texting whose contact doesn't even have a picture, which is a brilliant illustration of this tragic disconnect. Bad Bunny's long tenor runs are perfect for conveying that moonlight crossover between horniness and longing for a true human connection. This is a man whose fame lets him pick up pretty much any woman he wants to, but he can't make them stay after the shine of his celebrity wears off. He's just a novelty to these women when he wants to be something more.
Quizás no sentiste lo que yo sentí, pero aún te debo una noche en la suite para darte tabla.
Much like Taylor Swift, Bad Bunny uses his unique circumstances as one of the biggest celebrities on the planet to paint a captivating emotional narrative that no one else could. And it's an effort that I have massive respect for.
Pide otro moscomión. Ay.
I really cannot drive this point home hard enough. I really don't think that we should be taking for granted what an absolutely astonishing thing the Taylor Swift phenomenon is. Here's a fun fact. The first week in the history of the Billboard charts where no men were in the top 10 was the week Taylor dropped Midnights and filled up every single spot by herself. Taylor is far and away the most famous artist on the planet at the moment, and as it turns out, yeah, a whole album about the half-formed sleep paralysis thoughts of the most famous artist on the planet is pretty damn interesting. Anti-Hero serves as a bit of a thesis statement for the whole album, about how Taylor is terrified that her insane levels of fame have completely ruined her ability to make interpersonal relationships with her friends and family, centered around a response to the age-old joke of, maybe you're the problem, Taylor.
It's me. Hi, I'm the problem, it's me.
On a pure musical level, there's a lot to like about this. Aside from taking a lot of musical cues from the Charlie XCX classic Boom Clap, it's also probably the best example of production from Jack Antonoff, who basically dictated what the past half a decade of pop girl singles have sounded like. But what makes this song so endlessly fascinating to me is the paradox beguiling its very existence. Taylor Swift became the biggest artist in the world by being real, genuine, and relatable, and even now that she's reached a level of fame that should be impossible to relate to, she somehow remains just as understandable as ever as she mines for songs and the draining effects this fame is having on her bizarre, neurotic mind. Taylor's response to being on top of the world isn't to repeat old tricks or coast on what she's already done, it's to write idiosyncratic Wes Anderson monologues about her own narcissism.
Did you hear my covert narcissism? Like disguises altruism, like some kind of consciousness.
And then, she follows that up by making 30 Rock references that half her audience is too young to get.
Sometimes I feel like everybody is a sexy baby.
The whole sexy baby thing isn't an act. I'm a very sexy baby.
Taylor Swift is a billionaire. She has done a lot of very scummy things, and I'm not going to pretend that she's one of the good ones. But let's be real here. This is not a woman who became the biggest artist in the world by trying to play the system or bend to trends. She did it by being a talented songwriter with a fascinating mind. Anti-Hero might not be my favorite song on this list to return to, but it is the one that best represents how the context of persona defines what pop music is. Alright, so I'm going to talk about these next two songs together, and I've got some good news and some bad news. The bad news is that one of them is a Morgan Wallen song. The good news is that this particular Morgan Wallen song, in tandem with the other one, makes a pretty good argument as to why we don't need Morgan Wallen anymore.
I'll buy violets and daisies to hide all the crazy it's gonna take. There's a smoke ring wrapped around your finger wall. Second it's a blessing and the next it's already gone.
There are many factors working together in tandem that have turned country singer Morgan Wallen into the hottest new superstar in American pop music, and he occupies a unique enough place in the current music landscape that pretty much everyone agrees he is worth having around. However, you don't need me to tell you that the guy himself comes with a lot of baggage, and it's pretty clearly been a dream of Nashville to replicate the Morgan Wallen phenomenon just without the actual guy himself. And these two songs, Flower Shops by Ernest and Fall in Love by Bailey Zimmerman, prove that if you want to do that, the pieces are all there.
I heard you found yourself a brand new man. put a rock on your finger and he vowed you a second chance.
TikTok upstart Bailey Zimmerman has been by far the most successful in trying to replicate Morgan Wallen's niche. And while so far I've been way more impressed by his potential than his actual songs, Fall in Love is a genuinely excellent exception. This is one of the best run-on melodies I've ever heard in pop country, and it pairs up beautifully with this narrative of bitter dejection and a lost love, illustrated with beautiful poetic language and delivered with powerful wailing pathos.
My confession is a lesson that I'm pouring out in this song. Oh, 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 oh.
And then, on the other hand, you've got Flower Shops, the song which does have Morgan Wallen on it, but belongs primarily to Ernest, the guy who writes a lot of Morgan Wallen's biggest hits, who here crafts a heartbreaking ode to the aftermath of a broken relationship that he hopes against hope can be patched up with flowers. It's a devastating song, absolutely teeming with personal details, and topped off by one of the saddest crying guitar solos I've ever heard in my life. So yeah, two absolutely fantastic songs that really represent everything I want pop country to be, with emotionally effective storytelling delivered in an engaging way that doesn't lose its luster even after dozens of plays. They're both easily among the best Morgan Wallen-style country songs we've gotten so far, and the best thing about both of them is that, at least on the level of artistry, Morgan Wallen was completely inconsequential to their success. Even putting all of his baggage aside, Morgan Wallen has repeatedly shown that his favorite way to portray himself in his music is as a proud alcoholic who's really weird about women and is really into trap music in a way that makes his black friends more uncomfortable than they already were. Wallen himself is easily the weakest part of Flower Shops, really only there to commercially bolster Ernest, who not only does a much better job than Wallen, but also wrote it, along with most of Morgan Wallen's other stuff, being Wallen's most consistent creative partner alongside veteran producer Joey Moy. You know, that Joey.
And what the hell is on Joey said?
Yeah, in case you didn't know, the guy in Nickelback's Photograph is the reason Last Night was the #1 song of 2023. So yeah, Ernest and Joey Moy are basically Wallen's secret behind-the-scenes weapons who prove through this song that they're more than capable of functioning without Wallen's presence. And even if you do need a Morgan Wallen type to fill that role, well, would you look at that? We've got a perfectly good Bailey Zimmerman just sitting there. Literally everything people like about Morgan Wallen is present in these two songs, even if you take Morgan himself out of the equation. Now, obviously, that's not going to happen anytime soon. Morgan is still white hot, and that's not going to change in the foreseeable future. But I also think it's fair to remember that there are a lot of talented people supporting this man, and I hope we get to see more of them taking a step forward in the future.
Heard you moved out to South Carolina just like you always said we would.
Real quick, in case you didn't know, because I talk about copyrighted music on this channel, I have not made a dime from YouTube in the more than half a decade I've spent running this channel. And so I am 100% dependent on my supporters on Patreon to make income from the vast amount of time, effort, and energy that goes into making these videos. If you enjoy what I'm doing here, even a small pledge on Patreon would be immeasurably helpful. Pledges start at just $1, literally just 4 quarters per video, and aside from supporting me, you'll get tons of rewards for your pledges, such as voting for what I talk about next, access to a community of awesome people on my Discord server, early access to my videos before they premiere, and direct contribution to my videos through my Grab Bag review series, my fan rankings, and several other community-driven projects I have in the works. More information can be found at the link in this video's description. So one day I was doing some research into pop music from the 1980s when something very interesting caught my eye. Right there, on the list of #1 hits from 1989, Bat Dance by Prince. That was not a song I was familiar with, and so I looked it up, and...
Oh, I got a live one here.
This is literally all the song is. Prince made a funk jam built on a collage of sampled sound bites from the 1989 Batman movie, and it became a #1 hit. Because Prince. The point I'm trying to make here is that I fucking love when an artist gets so big the public will just let them do whatever the fuck they want.
I said I just got a ball, get it to ya. Pop out with a truck, get it to ya. Ain't nothing but a
One thing I adore about Doja Cat is her willingness to let her freak flag fly. We've very rarely had someone in pop music as purely unapologetic as she is. She seems to be having a bit of an existential crisis as of late as she rants about how her entire back catalog is nothing but sellouts, but I have to disagree with her. I think Doja Cat in 2022 in particular struck an absolutely perfect balance between accessible and, batshit insane. Get Into It, Ya is a genuinely really funny song with an unorthodox yet extremely engaging hook that just barely avoids overstaying its welcome. She ends the song by shouting out Nicki Minaj.
Thank you, Nicki. I love you.
But it's clearly Roman-style Nicki she's homaging here, not the watered-down, fame-starved sellout we've been getting for the past few years. Doja genuinely seems to have immense respect for all the female pop songs that she built her platform off of, and seeing women supporting each other like this is really heartwarming. I mean, really, is there any better summation of 2020's pop music than a woman in a hot pick thong making an Ed Sheeran sex pun?
I love Ed Sheeran, he in love with my body.
And then, of course, we got Vegas, her big new hit of the year, and I gotta say, one thing true about both of these songs is that Doja clearly has an extremely strong fundamental understanding of musical structure. Her hooks stick like very little else.
So yeah, I get it.
Top of that, I really love the idea of making a rap theme to an Elvis movie by sampling the original version of Hound Dog by Big Mama Thornton. That is a hell of a power move right there. The song has a solid touch of Vegas glitz and glamour, but it's not too much. It's the perfect blend of dark and aggressive while still goofy enough for Doja to work with. And it's also a great showcase of what a legitimately good rapper Doja is.
Had your ass in first class, your burnt ass out in Abu Dhabi. Could have been what we should have been, but you lost a bet, now you got it from me.
Throughout 2022, there were an absurd number of Doja Cat songs in rotation, and yet they were all so different that I never once felt been there, done that while listening to a new Doja Cat song. And these two standouts are a fantastic example of why that is. Good luck, Doja, you squirrely little freak.
You ain't nothing but a...
Please do me a favor and write a comment or two below discussing what you thought about this video, the music I talked about in it, or literally anything else. Interaction is hugely important to YouTube's algorithm, and so along with liking, subscribing, and joining my Patreon, comments are some of the best appreciation you can show if you enjoy what I do here. As you write your comment, let me ask you, would you like to have your opinions on music heard in my upcoming videos? Well, you can do that with a pledge of literally just $1 per video on Patreon. At the end of each of my videos, I give the mic over to my patrons and let them share their thoughts on the music I'm discussing. The patron reviews will start again in my upcoming Worst Hit Songs of 2024 videos. If you'd like to take part, you can do so for a pledge of just $1 per video on Patreon. For $2 per video, you can take part in the voting and suggestions for grab bag reviews. For $5 per video, you get access to a community of awesome people on my Discord server. For a $10 pledge, you gain early access to my videos as I work on them, plus your own custom icon, as you can see below. And for a $20 pledge, you get to skip the voting process and handpick a song for me to review in new episodes of Grab Bag Reviews. Thank you to all of my patrons for your extraordinary support over the difficulty of these last few years. The future is bright, and I can't wait to explore it with all of you. I'm Sean Fay-Wolfe of Diamond X Studios, and until next time, take care of yourselves.